I sat in my car outside the building I had called home for 7 years, watching the lights flicker on across Sterling and Associates. My father built this company from nothing, and I spent the better part of my 20s helping him grow it into something that mattered. Today he suspended me, told me I was not welcome back until I apologized to my sister in front of everyone for something I did not do. But I was not going to apologize. In my pocket, a USB drive held something far more valuable than an apology. They were about to learn what happens when you underestimate someone who knows where all the bodies are buried. Before I tell you what was on that USB drive, let me ask you something. Where are you watching this from? If this story hits close to home, hit that like button and subscribe, because what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about family and loyalty. Now let me take you back to where it all started going wrong. My father, Richard Sterling, founded Sterling and Associates 52 years ago. It started as a small marketing consultancy and grew into one of the premier agencies for luxury brands on the East Coast. We specialized in high-end clients, the kind who spent millions on campaigns and expected perfection. When my mother died, I was 12. Madison was 9. Dad threw himself into work, and we learned early that love in our house came with conditions. You had to earn it. You had to prove you deserved it. I went to college, graduated with honors in marketing, and came back ready to prove myself. I started at the bottom just like anyone else would. Internship first, then junior account coordinator, then account manager. I built our digital marketing department from absolutely nothing. When I started, we were still doing most of our advertising through print and television. I convinced my father to invest in social media influencer partnerships and data analytics. It took 5 years, but I grew our annual revenue from $3 million to $15 million. 15. I was proud of that. I thought he would be too. Madison, on the other hand, took a different route. She went to design school, studied fashion for 2 years, and dropped out. No degree. No real work experience. But Dad brought her into the company anyway, gave her the title Director of Creative Development, and let her do whatever she wanted. She came in late most days, left early on Fridays, and spent more time shopping online than actually working. But nobody said anything, because she was the favorite, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. I tried not to let it bother me. I told myself it did not matter. I had the respect of my colleagues. I had real accomplishments. That should have been enough. But deep down, it stung every time Dad brushed off my ideas in meetings while praising Madison for things she barely contributed to. It stung when he took her to client dinners and left me behind to finish paperwork. It stung when he remembered her birthday with expensive gifts but forgot mine entirely. About a month before everything fell apart, I noticed something strange. Going through the quarterly budget reports, I saw charges that did not make sense. Luxury hotel stays in Paris. Designer clothing purchases. First-class flights to Milan and Tokyo. All of it billed to the marketing department under research and development. But I had not approved any of those expenses. I managed the marketing budget. Every dollar that went out should have crossed my desk first. I dug deeper. Found receipts, bank statements, email confirmations. All of it pointed back to Madison. She had been using company funds for personal expenses, trips with her boyfriend, shopping sprees at Bergdorf Goodman, even rent payments for a penthouse apartment downtown that she claimed was for a consultant who never actually worked for us. The total came to over $250,000 in just 2 years. I did what I thought was right. I went to my father privately, knocked on his office door after hours, when the building was mostly empty, laid out the evidence on his desk. Receipts, statements, everything. He barely looked at them, just leaned back in his chair and said, "She is young. She made a mistake. Do not make this bigger than it is." I remember standing there stunned. A mistake. This was not a mistake. This was theft. Fraud. He saw my face and added, "Drop it, Zion. I will handle it." So I dropped it. Because he said he would handle it. Because I still believed somehow that he would do the right thing. 2 weeks passed. Nothing changed. Madison kept charging personal expenses to the company card. Kept taking trips on our dime. and my father kept signing off on every single one. Then came the Celestine Timepieces pitch, a luxury watch brand out of New York. They were looking for a new agency to handle their rebrand, and the contract was worth $2 million over 3 years. It was exactly the kind of account we needed. Madison volunteered to lead the pitch, said she had been working on ideas for weeks. My father approved it without hesitation. I should have known then. I should have seen it coming. A few days before the presentation, I asked to review her pitch deck. Just a courtesy check. Standard procedure. When I opened the file, my stomach dropped. The entire presentation was plagiarized, word for word from a famous case study about Mont Blanc that won awards back in 2021. She had not even bothered to change most of the language, just swapped out the brand name and called it original work. I found Madison in the break room the next morning. Pulled her aside. Kept my voice low. You cannot present this. They will know. Anyone in the industry will recognize it immediately. She looked at me like I was speaking another language. Then she smiled. That same smile she always gave me when she thought I was jealous. Dad already approved it. Maybe you are just jealous I am finally getting a big account. I tried to explain. Tried to make her understand. But she walked away. So I made a choice. I stayed quiet. I wanted to see if my father would catch it. If he would finally see what I had been seeing all along. The day of the pitch arrived. Bernard Walsh, the CEO of Celestine Timepieces, flew in from New York with his team. 4 people total. All of them experienced, all of them sharp. They sat across the conference table while Madison set up her presentation. I sat in the back corner watching. My father sat at the head of the table, confident as always. Madison started talking. Her voice shook a little. She clicked through the slides, talked about brand positioning and target demographics and digital strategy. About 3 slides in, I saw Bernard Walsh lean forward. He whispered something to the woman next to him. She nodded. By slide 7, I knew it was over. Bernard raised his hand. Madison stopped mid-sentence. I have seen this exact strategy before, he said. His voice was calm but firm. This is the Mont Blanc case from 2021. Every word, every concept. You did not even change the charts. The room went silent. Madison's face turned red. She stammered something about inspiration and creative adaptation. But Bernard was already standing. We will find another agency. Thank you for your time. They left. Just like that. $2 million walked out the door because my sister thought she could copy someone else's work and no one would notice. My father sat there, his jaw tight, his face red, the kind of red that meant someone was about to get destroyed. He waited until the elevator doors closed. Then he turned to the room. Everyone out except Zion and Madison. And someone get Donald in here. Donald Harper was our chief financial officer. He showed up 2 minutes later looking nervous. Dad started pacing. What just happened in there was unacceptable. We lost a major client because someone on this team was not doing their job. I expected him to look at Madison, but he was looking at me. Then Madison spoke, her voice small and shaky, still playing the victim. Zion reviewed my presentation last week. He said it was fine. He should have caught this. I felt like someone had just punched me in the chest. What I never reviewed anything. I warned you privately. It was plagiarized. She pulled out her phone. That is not true. You approved the final version. I have the email thread right here. She held up her screen. There it was. An email chain between us. Timestamps. My signature at the bottom. Except I never sent those emails. I never saw that presentation until 2 days ago. Let me see that, I said. She handed me the phone. I scrolled through the messages. They looked real, professionally formatted. My email address, my automatic signature. But I knew I had not written them. This is fake. I never received this file. Check the server logs. Check my sent folder. These emails do not exist. Madison's eyes filled with tears. Real tears this time, or maybe just well-practiced ones. Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to blame me? My father held up his hand. Enough. Zion, you are the head of marketing. This happened under your watch. Whether you reviewed it or not, you should have been monitoring her work. I opened my mouth to argue, to defend myself, to explain that Madison had fabricated evidence, but he cut me off. I do not want to hear it. You are suspended effective immediately. You will apologize to Madison in front of the entire company for trying to throw her under the bus. Until you do that, you are not welcome here. I stood there, stunned. 7 years. 7 years of 60-hour weeks, and missed holidays, and putting this company ahead of everything else in my life. And this was how it ended. Security will escort you out. That is what he said next. Like I was some kind of criminal. Donald looked down at his feet. Madison sat there crying, but when she thought no one was looking, I caught it, just for a second. Her lips curved up, the smallest smile. Satisfaction. 2 security guards I had known for years walked me to my desk. Let me pack my personal items into a cardboard box. Photos of my mom, a coffee mug, some books. The whole office watched. Nobody said anything. A few people looked at me with something like sympathy, but no one spoke up. No one defended me. They were too afraid of losing their own jobs. As I walked toward the elevator, I glanced back one more time. Madison stood by the window of the conference room. When our eyes met, she did not look away. She smiled. A real one this time. I drove home in silence, sat in my apartment and stared at the wall. My phone kept buzzing. Calls from numbers I did not recognize. A few texts from coworkers saying they were sorry, but mostly silence. I thought about my mother. She died of cancer when I was 12. And I still remembered the last thing she told me. Your father shows love differently, but he loves you both the same. I believed that for 16 years. I carried those words like a shield every time he chose Madison over me. But sitting there in my empty apartment, I finally understood the truth. He never loved us the same. He just loved one of us. And it was never me. That night I could not sleep. I kept replaying the meeting in my head. The fake emails, the smirk, the way my father did not even hesitate before choosing her story over mine. And then a thought occurred to me. If Madison was willing to fabricate evidence to destroy me, and if my father was willing to cover for her stealing $250,000, what else were they hiding? What else was buried in the files I had access to for 7 years? But never thought to question. The next morning I opened my laptop. I still had remote access to the company server. Our IT department was notoriously slow. It usually took them 3 or 4 days to revoke access after someone left. I logged in. At first, I just wanted to back up my own work, campaigns I had built, strategies I had developed, proof that I had actually done something valuable. But curiosity got the better of me. I opened Madison's folder. There was a subfolder labeled Personal Dad Approved. I clicked it. Inside were dozens of files, receipts for luxury hotels, wire transfer confirmations, credit card statements, email exchanges between Madison and vendors. But it was worse than I thought. She had not just been stealing for 2 years. She had been doing it for almost 4. The total was not $250,000. It was closer to $400,000. There were charges for trips to Paris, Milan, Tokyo, and London, all billed as research trips, but the invoices showed reservations at 5-star hotels and Michelin-starred restaurants. There were purchases from Chanel, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, all categorized as client gifts but never actually given to clients. And there was rent. She had been paying for a penthouse apartment for her boyfriend, a guy named Travis, who was listed on payroll as a brand consultant. I checked his employee file. He had not logged a single billable hour in 18 months. But what made my blood run cold were the emails between Madison and my father. He knew. He knew everything. One email from Richard to Madison dated 8 months ago said, "Use the marketing budget. Zion brings in enough revenue to cover it. He will not notice." Another one more recent said, "If anyone asks, say these are legitimate business expenses. The board does not audit creative development closely." I sat back, stared at the screen. My father was not just protecting Madison. He was actively helping her steal from the company, from clients, from employees whose retirement funds were tied to company profits. I downloaded everything. Every receipt, every email, every bank statement. Saved it all to a folder on my desktop. Then I did something I probably should not have done. I opened my father's private folder. It was password protected, but I knew his passwords. He used the same one for everything: my mother's maiden name and her birth year. Inside, I found something even worse. Tax documents that did not match what we filed with the IRS. Revenue reports that had been altered. Invoices for projects that never existed. My father had been cooking the books for at least 3 years. There were emails between him and Donald Harper, our CFO, discussing how to hide income from federal auditors, how to inflate expenses to reduce taxable profit, how to overcharge clients for hours we never worked, and pocket the difference. The numbers were staggering. Based on what I could piece together, they had evaded nearly $1.2 million in taxes, and they had been billing clients for fake consulting fees, phantom research costs, and non-existent overtime. Some of our biggest clients had been defrauded out of hundreds of thousands of dollars without even knowing it. I saved everything, copied it all to a USB drive, sat there with it in my hand. This was my father, the man who raised me, the man who taught me how to ride a bike and how to tie a tie and how to negotiate a contract. But he was also the man who just destroyed my career to protect his golden child. The man who looked me in the eye and told me I was not welcome in the company I helped build. I thought about what my mother would want me to do, but she was not here. And the version of my father she loved died a long time ago. I called an old friend from college, Marcus Brennan. He worked as an investigative journalist for the Boston Financial Tribune. We met at a coffee shop downtown. I handed him the USB drive. He plugged it into his laptop right there at the table. Scrolled through the files. His eyes got wider with every page. "This is massive, Zion. If even half of this checks out, your father's company is done. The IRS will be all over this. Probably the FBI too." "I know," I said. "Run the story." He looked at me, really looked at me. "Are you sure this is your family? Once this goes public, there is no taking it back." I thought about Madison's smirk, about my father telling security to escort me out, about 7 years of being second best no matter how hard I worked. They stopped being my family when they chose lies over truth. Printed. 3 days later, the Boston Financial Tribune ran the story. The headline was huge. "Sterling and Associates luxury marketing firm accused of tax fraud and embezzlement." The article was thorough. It included scanned documents, screenshots of emails, detailed breakdowns of financial discrepancies. Marcus had done his homework. He verified everything. Cross-referenced sources, even got statements from 2 former employees who had suspected something was wrong but were too afraid to speak up. I did not go anywhere near the office, but I watched the news, checked social media, saw the story spread. It was picked up by national outlets within hours. Business Insider ran a follow-up. Forbes published an analysis of how the fraud had gone undetected for so long. My phone would not stop ringing. Unknown numbers. Reporters, probably. A few former coworkers texted me. Some asked if I was okay. Others asked if I was the source. I turned off my phone and sat alone in my apartment. Part of me felt relief, like I had finally set down a weight I had been carrying for years. But another part of me felt empty, hollow, like I had just burned down the only home I ever knew. Later, I found out what happened at the office that morning. A former colleague, Sarah Phillips, sent me a detailed message. She said Madison came in around 9:30, coffee in hand, acting like nothing was wrong. She walked past my empty desk and smirked, turned to her assistant and said, "Guess he finally realized nobody wants him here." Sarah said it made her sick to watch. Then about 20 minutes later, the company lawyer Gerald Hoffman came sprinting into the building. His face was white. He went straight to my father's office, then called an emergency meeting with just Richard and Madison. They locked themselves in the conference room. Gerald put his iPad on the table and pulled up the Tribune article. Madison read it. Sarah said you could see the color drain from her face, even through the glass walls. How did they get this? Madison asked, her voice high and panicked. Gerald did not waste time. That is not the question. The question is, what did you two do? My father tried to stay calm, tried to take control like he always did. We will deny everything. Sue them for defamation. But Gerald cut him off. You cannot sue for defamation if it is true. And Richard I looked at those documents in the article. They are real. I recognize our letterhead, our account numbers, your signature. That is when Madison said it. Zion. It has to be Zion. He had access to everything. Gerald pulled out his laptop, checked the access logs. His access was revoked 3 days ago, but it shows his last login was 4 days ago, right before we cut him off. He looked at Madison. Tell me you did not post any of this online. Tell me there are no other copies. Madison stuttered. I did not. I do not know what Zion did. Gerald closed his eyes, rubbed his temples. If he leaked this, if reporters have copies, we are done. The IRS will be here by the end of the day. He was right. The IRS opened an investigation that afternoon. By the next morning, the FBI was involved, because wire fraud across state lines is a federal crime. Clients started canceling contracts. Our biggest account, a luxury car manufacturer, pulled out immediately and issued a press release distancing themselves from us. Employees began submitting resignations. People who had been there for 10-15 years just walked out. Nobody wanted to be associated with a sinking ship. Within 2 weeks, my father was formally charged with tax evasion and fraud. Madison was named as a co-conspirator, though her lawyer was working on a deal. The company filed for bankruptcy. Assets were frozen. My father had to sell his house, the one I grew up in, just to pay for his legal defense. The cars, the vacation home in Vermont, all of it went to cover debts and fines. About a month after the article came out, I got a call from a private number. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. It was my father. His voice sounded older, tired. It was you, was not it. I did not say anything at first, just listened. You suspended me, remember, I finally said. I was not welcome there. He let out a bitter laugh. I am your father. How could you destroy everything I built? You destroyed it yourself when you chose favoritism and fraud over integrity. I just made sure the truth came out. There was a long silence. Then he said, Madison is facing charges because of you. I felt a flicker of something. Not guilt, maybe sadness, but not guilt. Madison is facing charges because of what she did. What you both did. Another silence. Then I will never forgive you for this. I took a breath. Good. That makes 2 of us. I hung up. 6 months later, I was sitting in my own office. Not a fancy one. Just a small space in a shared building downtown. I had started my own marketing consultancy. Small clients at first, local businesses, a couple of nonprofits. But word got around. Some of my former colleagues reached out. A few clients who had worked with me at Sterling and Associates came back. They said they trusted me, that I had always been the one doing the real work anyway. It was not the empire my father built, but it was mine. Clean, honest, built on my own terms. Richard Sterling was sentenced to 3 years probation, a massive fine, and a lifetime ban from practicing in the industry. The judge said prison time was considered, but his age and lack of prior offenses worked in his favor. He had to sell everything. Moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. I heard he tried to get a job at a competitor, but no one would hire him. His reputation was destroyed. Madison took a plea deal. She testified against my father in exchange for a reduced sentence, community service, restitution payments, probation. Her lawyer spun it as her being manipulated by our father, and maybe there was some truth to that. But I knew better. She was not some innocent victim. She made her choices. Now she was living with them. Last I heard, she was working retail at a department store, the same stores she used to steal from. One afternoon, I was sitting at my desk looking out the window at the city. It was raining, the kind of soft, steady rain that makes everything feel quiet. I thought about my father, about Madison, about the 7 years I spent trying to earn love from people who were never going to give it. I did not feel angry anymore. Anger takes energy, and I did not have any left to give them. Mostly I just felt sad. Sad for what could have been if they had chosen differently. Sad for the family we never really were. But I also felt something else. Freedom. For the first time in my life, I was not trying to prove myself to anyone. I was not waiting for approval that would never come. I was not measuring my worth by someone else's impossible standards. I built something real, something that mattered, something that was mine. People ask me sometimes if I regret it. If I wish I had just kept quiet and moved on, the answer is no. I do not regret it. The only thing I regret is not seeing the truth sooner. I wasted years believing that if I just worked harder, achieved more, sacrificed more, they would finally see me. But some people will never see you no matter how brightly you shine, and that is not your failure. It is theirs. I learned that family is not just blood. It is respect. It is honesty. It is seeing each other's worth and choosing to honor it. When those things are gone, the only thing left to do is walk away and build something true on your own. Some bridges are meant to burn, so you can finally stop crossing back to places that never felt like home. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever had to choose between staying loyal to people who hurt you and standing up for what is right? Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Drop a comment below and tell me your story. If this resonated with you, hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And if you have not subscribed yet, do that now, because I will be sharing more stories about finding strength in the hardest moments. Thank you for listening. I hope wherever you are, you know your worth. And I hope you never settle for people who make you feel like you have to earn it. Take care of yourself. You deserve better than I thought I did.